Yo, welcome back to another video. This time we're going to be talking about trinkets that come out in Wrath and who should be prioed on these trinkets. Now, while making this video in preparation for it, I was going to do a complete breakdown of loot prio and realized as I got into ICC has way too many trinkets and way too many things to talk about. It would have just been an hour-long video. So instead, I'm just going to talk about trinkets from tier 7 all the way to tier 9, and only trinkets, no weapons here. And I'm really only talking about who should receive this trinket first. The first one is honestly where all of the loot drama happens anyway, the very first one of these trinkets. So let's just talk about who should get it first. After that, hopefully, the dust has settled from all the drama in your guild, and you can just kind of sort out and dish out more of these trinkets to the rest of the people who didn't get it first. The first person is kind of the biggest contested point here. So let's just talk about the trinkets from tier 7 to tier 9, at least the ones that matter. Also note, we're not talking about any trinkets that come from 10-man content. Any of that 10-man content, hopefully you should be able to sort out with your group of friends and your 10-man, and hopefully there isn't too much drama there. Without further delay, let's go into tier 7, and our first up is a Dying Curse. This highly sought after caster trinket with a whopping 71 hit, and of course the equip to have your spells increase your spell power by 765 for 10 seconds. Every caster is going to want this, and I will say because it has so much hit rating on it, one person that I'm going to immediately think shouldn't get this first is your Arcane Mage, because they don't need that much hit. They are likely going to have too much hit to begin with from the other pieces of their gear, and your Arcane Mage can actually not get this first Dying Curse, and it would be okay. Now, granted, your Arcane Mage might be your highest pumper in a lot of your fights, thinking like Maexna, maybe Patchwork, maybe Gluth, maybe even Saffron if the fight is that short on Wrath Classic. I would likely give this Dying Curse to someone else, like a Warlock. And between the Warlocks, I am likely leaning towards the Demo Lock. Now, if you know anything about Wrath, we want to funnel the Demo Lock as much gear as possible, because the more spell power that they have, the more DPS increase that is for the entire caster group. So I would give the first Dying Curse to your Demo Lock. First Dying Curse to the Demo Lock. I think that would go over well. I think they could use the hit rating, and it's going to be DPS increase for everyone when they get this proc off. So, first one to the Demo Lock, then we'll consider other people, likely your Affliction locks next, and then maybe even your mages, of course, because they're going to want it before Old War so that they can use it with their fire set. Next, going to be Grim Toll, the whopping 83 hit rating, and then the Armor Pin proc that comes with it. Now, the first class that should be getting this is likely going to be your Feral Druid. I think Feral is going to get the most out of this because Feral is already going to be one of your biggest single target pumpers throughout the game. They do the best with this kind of armor pen proc. Another class that's really going to want this is, of course, your Warriors, but your Warriors just don't do enough damage in Tier 7. They're going to be really, really low on the meters. They're not going to be noticed. They're going to be scrolled down all the way to the bottom, just barely above the tanks, DPS. And so giving them this Grim Toll would be, of course, like you got to throw them a bone every now and then. But these Browns, like, look, man, they just don't need this Grim Toll. This is a big item. Let's give it to the Ferals first. I think after your Ferals, I would likely lean for your Frosty K, who definitely is going to want this Grim Toll. However, there are some Frosty Ks who say, oh no, don't go Grim Toll, go Fury. So make sure you talk it out with your group. If your Frosty Ks want Grim Toll or if they want Fury the 5 Flights, because that would matter a lot. You don't want to give them an item that is not BIS for them, but BIS for someone else. But again, first person, it's got to be your Feral, I think. And then for the last trinket that we're going to talk about in Tier 7 is Fury the 5 Flights. I kind of think this trinket is a bit of a bait. I don't think it's quite as good as people think that it is. It does give you a lot of flat attack power, stacks up super quick, and it's going to last for the majority of every fight. There shouldn't be any reason for it to fall off, except for the occasional fight where maybe you have 10 seconds of downtime, but it's likely your own fault if that happens. I I think the best person to give this to is probably your hunter. If your survival hunter wants Fury, give them Fury. However, I will say it will likely be a bigger DPS increase on a class like a Assassination Rogue. I would almost lean towards giving it to the Assassination Rogue first. However, I just think your Assassination Rogues shouldn't be playing Assassination coming Old War. They should really be trying their best to convert to combat and go full on combat. And Fury is just not going to be as great on them on combat as it would be for Assassination. So it's something to work out with your guild. Again, if your Frosty Ks want Fury the 5 flight, they need to be in consideration as well. They're going to be doing more DPS than the other classes too, but I would probably lean towards your Survival Hunter. Again, talk it out with your guild. I would probably go with your Hunter here, but even Assassination Rogue is going to be a really good choice. But this one's kind of up for debate. Definitely a lot of debate for this one, and I just don't think this trinket is as good as advertised. Now, next, we have Comet's Trail, the Algalon Haste trinket in Tier 8, Old War. Really, really good trinket. A lot of people want this trinket. You know your Enhance wants it. I know a lot of Feral players definitely like to take this trinket. Obviously, your Assassination Rogue. I know a lot of Frosty Ks like to take this trinket. Unholy Hunters want it. A lot of people want this attack power with the Haste proc trinket. I will say right off the bat, a couple people I want to cross off that list is I don't think your Feral should be on Prio, and I don't think your Frosty K should be on Prio. Your Feral can run other things like Dark Matter and Mjolnir from 10-man, and your Frosty K likely should be running Mjolnir. And if not that, they should maybe be running something else. Comet's Trail, again, will be really good on your Frosty K, but not nearly as good as it will be on other classes. One class that I do want to say is your Enhance. There are some Enhance builds that actually use Comet's Trail for your full Bis trinket for the entirety of the expansion. Now, it's definitely something that we want to work out once we get our hands on Wrath Classic. We don't quite know how the sims will work there, and we don't quite know how Haste is going to work with the Spell Hance, and if this trinket will be as good as we think that it is for some private servers. But just keep in mind that there are some enhanced builds that are taking this all the way through ICC. Maybe you replace it in ICC with the badge trinket, but you need to figure that out with your enhance before you get to this trinket. Do not show up to Algalon without a plan for if your enhance wants to use this for a very, very long time or not. Because if they do, they need to get that first one. Your enhance should be the first one. However, I do know some unholy DKs that are going to be using this for the entire expansion as well. I've seen some sims that run Comet's Trail over a normal version of a Death's Verdict. So maybe you run Comets plus a Heroic's Death Choice or Death Verdict in combination with each other as unholy. That again depends on how Gargoyle is working on Classic Wrath. So your Unholy and your Enhance going to be two really big trinket classes that we need to talk about before you get your Comet's Trail. Lastly, your Assassination Rogue. If you still have an Assassination Rogue in the guild, this is probably their best trinket and will be very, very good all the way going into ICC as well. If you give them a Comet's Trail, you can low prio them on a lot of trinkets for the rest of the game. Which is kind of a nice thing. But again, I think your rogues should be going combat at this point. However, if they're assassination, they will blast with this Comet's Trail. They will absolutely blast. If I had to pick, assuming we have good gargoyle scripting going into Wrath Classic, I would give the first Comet's Trail to your Unholy DK. Second would have to be Enhance. Third would be Assassination. And then we'll figure out the rest from there. Next is Flair of the Heavens. Big caster trinket. Big caster trinket coming off of General Vezax. Specifically hard mode. This is best for all of your casters, and kind of similar to Death's Choice, I do have to give this first one to the Demo Lock. First one's got to be the Demo Lock. They get this in their hands. It's a DPS increase for everyone in the raid. First one goes to the Demo Lock, and hopefully everyone can understand how that works. That the more spell power your Demo Lock gets, the more spell power the entire raid gets. First one has to be to the Demo Lock. The second one, however, because it's got a lot of crit rating on it, I kind of want to give this one to your Fire Mage. I think your Fire Mage will do really, really well with Flare of the Heavens. Probably give this one to your best Fire Mage, or maybe the one that was screwed over on other loot. So catch them up with this trinket, and give this one to your Fire Mage next. Of course, all of your other casters are going to want this, especially your Warlocks and Shadow Priests. All of them. All of them are going to want this. So get this out to everyone as best you can. You need to be farming General Vezox on hard mode as often as possible for this trinket. It's huge. Now, next into Tier 9, we have Reign of the Dead coming off of a new Barak, the last boss of TOGC. This one is really fun. The equip says you gain a shard of flame each time you cause a non-periodic spell critical strike. When you reach 3 shards, they will release, firing a pillar of flame for X amount of damage. Shard of flame cannot be gained more often than once every 2 seconds, 2-minute cooldown. This trinket is really interesting, and the first thing I want to say, similar to Comet's Trail, is your enhanced Shaman with this trinket. If you have an enhance that's going a spell enhance build, there are some private servers that we've seen the scripting on this trinket to be extra, how do you say, fun, which we may run into in Wrath Classic. Hopefully we can figure this out in beta before we get to Tier 9, but we probably won't know until we get this item in our hands. I would recommend maybe trading this item first to your enhance, let them mess around with it on a target dummy, and then trade it back if it doesn't work. But the way that this could work for your enhance is this can proc off of everything. It can proc off of your flame tongue weapon. It can proc off of your totems. It can proc off your lightning shield. It can proc off your lightning bolt or chain lightning from your maelstrom procs. It can also proc off of the melee damage while you have a flame cap active. It can proc from all of that. So, if this is procking from all of those things, this could be a really, really good trinket that is bis forever on your enhance. Only if they're running the spell enhance set. Now, that is such a weird, unique situation that I don't know if I would even give them the first one. If they have this heroic Reign of the Dead plus a Comet's Trail, they'll likely be set up bis for the rest of the expansion, all the way to heroic Lich King. But other shamans don't want to run that, so you have to figure it out with your shamans. Other than that, I would probably give this first one to your Fire Mage. It's going to be really good on your Fire Mage. They're going to blast with this. Obviously, every caster wants it. Thankfully, your Demo Locks shouldn't need this, though. So let's go with Fire Mage first, and then we'll talk about other casters from there. So let's go with Mages first. And lastly, the last one for this video is going to be our Death's Choice. Similar to the Greatness trinkets that we get from the Darkmoon Fair, Death's Choice is going to have us have a proc of either Strength or Agility, whichever one is highest, for a whopping 510 for 15 seconds, plus the flat attack power bonus. Now, just like the Darkmoon Fair, all of your DPS are going to want this. All the melee, all the hunters. Thankfully, Holy Paladins don't have to worry about getting this one, since it's only Strength and Agility. But a lot of people are going to want this. And I gotta say, the first class on my priority for Death's Choice has got to be your Frost DK. Now, I know everyone wants it. I know, trust me, I know. But your Frost DK gains so much from pure strength that they will get the most out of this trinket than other classes will. The way that their strength is increased from Fallen Crusader procs, the way that it's increased from Unbreakable Armor, and the way that it's increased just through their whole kit, it's such a high value stat for Frost DK that they gain way too much attack power for them to be ignored for this trinket. You have to give this first one to your Frost DK. I know. You probably want to give it to a warrior too, and make sure you get it to a warrior before Tier 10 comes out. But then we'll worry about Tier 10 when it gets here. Just make sure y'all are farming as much as you can heroic Twin Valks, because this trinket is insane. It's so insane. After your Frost DK, your Unholy DK wants it, your Rogues want it, sometimes your Enhance wants it, your Feral wants it. Everyone wants this trinket. Your Hunters want it. And everyone's going to be doing everything they can. They're either going to spend all their GDKP on this, all their gold that they have on a GDKP, all their DKP if you run that kind of loot system. This is one of the most highly sought trinkets in the game. And I do think you got to give it to your Frost DK. But that's just me. Your Rets obviously want this too. A ton of people want this. This is going to cause a lot of drama for your guild. Make sure you have a plan going into Tier 9 of who you're going to give your first Death's Choice to, assuming it's dropping early, and be good on that decision and make sure that everyone is prepared for who is going to get it so that there's as little drama as possible going into that. Thanks, guys, for listening. That's going to be it for this video. We'll talk more about ICC loot in the future. I'll talk more about legendaries like Valinir and Shadowmourne and who should get those. But this video could have gone on for way too long, so I just wanted to stick with trinkets for now. Thanks again for listening, and we'll be in touch soon. Peace.